What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dissect That Film podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brett Parker, and joining me, as always, is DNA Gaming, consisting of Dan and Angela. Yes, I'm going to say your real name today.
Yes.
I have a name.
Oi, oi. Oi, oi.
Aussie.
Yeah, sure. Get out of here.
This is a podcast we do once a week where we dissect our favorite films, film franchises, and soon-to-be TV. Today is the beginning of Spooktober, where each week we will be reviewing each of our favorite Spooktober movies. This week is our man Dan's choice. The 1985 classic, well, let's say cult classic,
Yes.
George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. The third of the Dead trilogy, released July 19th, 1985, budgeted at $3.5 million estimated, grossed $5 million. The lowest grossing of the Dead movies George A. Romero ever released. It would also be the last of the Dead movie that would be released until 2007.
It's a bit of a gap.
When George A. Romero directed Diary of the Dead. Now, Dan,
he did Land of the Dead as well.
Oh, really?
Pretty sure.
Oh, I read that that this was like the last of the Dead movies until Diary of the Dead. But you could be right.
I'll double check. I'll check. Let me check.
Well, it says it says Land of the Dead, which came out in 2005.
Yep.
So why would that? That's weird.
Well,
My apologies, audience.
Maybe they don't consider Land of the Dead part of
the
actual
Dead.
Yeah, because he did Diary of the Dead, and then he did, I think Survival was the last one he did, Dead film he did before he passed away.
Yeah. And of course, as all George A. Romero's zombie movies would be remade many times. Night of the Living Dead, which was the first George A. Romero film back in 1968, was remade later in 1990 by Tom Savini, a big-time special effects makeup artist. And then we had Dawn of the Dead, which came out in 1978, which would later be remade by Zack Snyder in 2004, which, as much as Dan is in anguish right now, is my favorite of the remakes of the Dead movies. And then we had Day of the Dead, which came out in 1985, which was remade twice, once in 2008 and once again, I believe, in 2015, but the date might be wrong. But they're both bad movies, so we won't talk much about them. Also, there's a television show coming out in mid-October called Day of the Dead, but I read the synopsis of the show, and it really has nothing to do with the plot of this movie, other than the fact it has zombies in it.
And they're probably the wrong kind of zombies anyway, so it's all shit.
Right. So, what did we think of Day of the Dead? Dan, we're going to start with you because this is your movie, man. This is your choice. So I want to hear all the thoughts.
Okay, so my obsession with zombies, I got to give some context. When I was younger, Resident Evil terrified me of zombies for years. When it first came out, there was the dog scene we all know in the original one.
I'm right there with you.
When it first came out, because I was like, I'm a cow. Like, I don't like scary movies for the most part, but I love zombie movies and some slasher films. But anyway, so I watched Day of the Dead first, then not Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, then Dawn of the Dead, and then I watched this last. And I've always loved this movie, and it's generally the most underappreciated, I think, of the three. But I think I love this movie because I think it's the most desolate, dark, and unforgiving of the three original films. And I would say, even though I think I can think of one character in this movie I don't like, and we'll talk about them later, but I actually love the entire cast. None of them were really big actors, but I think all of them did an amazing job portraying the characters they were put forth, to do on this role in this film. And I love it. I love everything about this movie. Absolutely. Everything. Even though I think the previous film's a better film, quote unquote, I like this one more.
Okay. So this was the first time I had ever seen this movie. And
really?
Yes. I have seen the original Night of the Living Dead. I've seen the original Dawn of the Dead, but for some reason this one eluded me. And the thing was when I was a kid, throughout my teenage years, I loved watching 70s, 80s, and early 90s horror movies, slasher movies, because they were great. Because they were they were super cheesy, but they were just so much more entertaining than like horror movies that take themselves super serious.
Yeah, yeah.
This movie is kind of half and half. Like you're right. This is super dark, just the way everybody is and the situation they're in, and there's some certain characters and how far they're going to try to figure out what the hell is going on. But yeah, but then you have actors who they go a little too far over the hump. Like they're trying either really hard or way too hard in certain situations, which I guess I can respect for a movie in the 80s. Because to be honest, when it comes to 80s horror movies, the 80s wasn't really good to the horror genre because it was the land of sequels.
But there were so many too.
And really bad sequels. You're thinking of like how many? There's 11. Is there 11 Friday the 13th films in the whole entire franchise?
Yes, there's 11.
And most of them came out in the 80s. And most of them were just the same movies.
And that's not even counting some like off the wall shit from that time period. Like we're talking about like bigger stuff that got sequels and then went downhill.
Right.
Like, there's tons of just like obscure horror movies that just they was so inundated with horror in like the late 70s into the 80s.
I think it was more so the 80s was more of like the slasher period because that's when we got Freddy, and Freddy took Freddy Krueger. Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984, and then of course it spawned 6 sequels. 6 or 7 sequels before like 1991. So yeah, the 80s just was the sequel. It was just the slasher period, and they would produce so many sequels. But listen, this is a movie that I didn't hate, but I also was like, man, I don't know if I could ever watch that again. Because it was just, it's just one of those type of movies where it was some of these characters I'd never want to see again. Some of these people are just like, man, I hope I never see this character again. But I also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it's the 80s, and there was a lot of movies with these characters that were just so over the top.
Yep.
So I'm not going to throw too much shade at that. We'll talk about those characters when we get into the plot, but this movie was interesting. I respect George A. Romero. He's the man who created the zombie genre. He's the king, and I respect the hell out of him. I think he does a great job, and he was a very passionate person. There was a lot of things behind the scenes with this movie that he got kind of screwed over with. That's why it was so low grossing. Like it made no money. It bombed. He wanted it unrated so that he could do whatever he wanted, like with all the gore. Yep. All of that gore in this movie, that couldn't have been in a movie that was rated R. Like that was extreme.
Yep.
So he was like, no, I want this movie to be unrated. I want, he had a lot of demands, and he just said, screw it. I'll take the risk. And this is actually this was his favorite of the Dead movies.
I had heard that as well.
Of his original trilogy, which consists of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. Angela, what do you think?
Your turn.
So this was my first time watching it.
I have no idea how I did not make you watch this before.
I'm very confused. I don't know.
I remember you reviewing it the first time though, but there were parts where I had to look away. Like it was just too like, ouch, that hurts.
Yeah.
But would I watch it again? Maybe. Probably. Halloween.
You think that's why Victor bailed while we were watching it? Like my son,
he's
like all about this.
No.
He just bailed. I was like, is this that bad? Like, I don't know. Like, I love this movie.
It's not bad.
No, I meant like cut violence and stuff.
But yeah, there was times where I was like, that's painful.
Yeah, it's a movie of the times. I think the thing I have to give a huge credit. So Tom Savini, who did the special effects or the makeup and all the gore, the kills, pretty much, he is a legend. And he's the one who actually directed the remake of Night of the Living Dead in 1990, which actually was a great remake. But I think my favorite part of this movie is watching the kills, because there's no holds bar on them. Just,
oh god,
dude, the guy, there's literally a kill where a guy gets his head ripped off, and it's literally the zombie that just like sticks its fingers in it like a bowling ball and just proceeds to tear his head off. I was like, fucking bravo. This is great.
Dude,
I was pumped up about the kills in this movie. I think that's what I respect the hell out of movies during this time, is the special effects were so good. They were so graphic, but they were so good because you're like, damn, that looks real. That shit is insane.
Some movies had good.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll back up on that then. Okay.
But no, there were good numbers that actually, like, they really knew how to use practice.
If you had Tom Savini attached to your horror movie, you're in good hands, because Tom Savini is a legend of his craft.
or who did the? I don't remember who did the effects. I don't think it was Tom Savini, but the 1981 Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh man, that might have been Stan Winston.
Dude,
I'll have to look it up.
I still have no idea how the hell they did those in 1981.
Bro,
They were so fucking good.
I can't wait to review that movie. Side note, but it's so good. I'll have to look it up later. But yeah,
it's Among Us the movie, dude.
Oh god, so good, so good. So yeah, so it stars Laurie Cardill. Who's that? The girl in this movie. Fun fact: her father was in Night of the Living Dead. He played the newscaster talking to some of the people like on the outside. He was a real newscaster in Pittsburgh,
really,
or in a surrounding town. Because George A. Romero is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or was. I'm sorry, George A. Romero has passed away. He was from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so a lot of his movies he cast people from the area.
Mm-hmm.
And her father was a local newscaster, and he hired him to play a newscaster in the original Night of the Living Dead.
I remember that.
And when he was casting for Day of the Dead, he saw her out and wanted her to play the lead. And to be honest, she's the best character of this movie. I think she's a great lead. There are other very interesting characters and good characters. She's tough. She's one of those characters where she shows she's tough as nails, but she's also sensitive. She's also like, she's holding everything in and then she breaks. I think she goes through that was a roller coaster of emotions. And for a movie of this stature, you're like, damn, bravo. Also, but then you got to look at the actor who played Rhodes, Joseph Pilato, and he is way up here, man. He is just so extreme with everything. Him and the two like main military guys, Steele and Rickles. Those guys are like way up here, and it's
Rickles is just
bonkers.
Rickles,
I kept wanting to call him Pickles.
It's Pickles. Oh man, like
you almost killed Rickles. You almost killed Rickles.
Yeah. Dude, he would have saved us a lot of problems if he had just thrown him in right there and just been done with it.
Oh my god.
Oh, I love Rhodes.
Oh man, was it Torres? Was Torres the sick guy? The guy who was all whacked out?
No, it's Miguel.
Oh, Miguel.
Poor Miguel.
I fucking hate him.
I literally just called him the crazy guy because I missed his name in the beginning of the movie, so I just kept calling him crazy guy throughout my notes. I'm like, I don't know what this guy's name is, but man, he's another one who kind of went a little extreme with his line deliveries. But I always feel like you're in a zombie apocalypse and he's having a mental break. So like possibly that's how you're going to react to that situation. But I don't know.
The thing I like about this movie is I've talked about this before with some other people. My favorite thing about this movie is when you usually watch films like this, there's like a progression of like a character or two that slowly kind of becomes desensitized or goes insane during the duration of the film, right? They kind of, in this situation, it's just too much for them to handle and they lose it. Everybody in their own way in this movie is fucked up. Mm-hmm. Everybody.
Yes, 100%.
Whether it's over the top crazy or they just don't give a shit anymore, So, fun fact that I found out after watching this movie, I was watching the credits and I was looking through and I saw Greg Nicotero's name. He played one of the soldiers. So Greg Nicotero is a special effects. He's like Tom Savini. He literally created the zombies for The Walking Dead.
I know who he is.
He's a huge special effects guy right now. He's probably surpassed Tom Savini, but yeah, he is the man behind the zombies for The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And he's done
keep it alive, man.
He's done many other things. Yeah. And there was a horror anthology series or horror documentary series he had on AMC, which I watched, which was really good.
Okay. So I know who he plays in this movie. I know who he plays.
Jansen.
I remember who that is.
So yeah. That was cool to see. All the extras who played zombies in the climax of this movie received for their services a cap that said, "I played a zombie in Day of the Dead."
I would love to have
a copy of the newspaper from the beginning of the film, the one that says "The Dead Walk." Fun. Here's a trivia question for you, Dan. What other movie that has actually been reviewed on this channel did this newspaper where a newspaper that says the same exact thing show up?
I know you're going to ask me this, and I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was Resident Evil Extinction.
It was actually the first Resident Evil.
Oh, was it?
When
Okay,
she walks out of the hospital or out of the lab, it's laying in the same position as it does at the beginning of this movie.
But do you know what's not in the beginning of that movie? A fucking alligator. That's what's not.
Yes, I saw it. I was like, that is wild. And those two guys behind him were probably like, I really hope this thing doesn't turn around, because that was a real alligator. That wasn't no prop. So they filmed this in Fort Myers, Florida, and that's where they filmed it there. And when they talk about it, that's what they say, that like they're in Fort Myers, Florida. They don't just make up some bullshit city,
which is cool. I thought it was like, oh hey, well, they're clearly in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last thing that the extras received was $1. So they got a hat, a newspaper, and $1.
Allegedly, this is what I'd heard. Allegedly, in this scene, I didn't pay attention, because at the very end you see all sorts of zombies. I like the clown one, by the way. I pointed that out. It's apparently a zombie dressed.
The football player. My wife laughed out loud at that. She's. I was like, "You're laughing at the football player, aren't you?" That's so great.
Well, one of them apparently was supposed to be dressed up like Michael Jackson from Thriller. Somebody kept playing it on the fucking set, and the makeup artist is like, "This is bullshit." And they had one of the people dress up as Michael Jackson.
Oh man, that's so good. The original script that George A. Romero couldn't get budget for involved the scientists living above ground in like a fortress, and the military guys living underground. It involved a small army of trained zombies, and the conclusion to the trilogy more brutal than the released version. This later would become the basis of Land of the Dead.
Romero has notorious trouble with studios in his films.
Oh,
specifically the original ending to the original Dawn of the Dead, which they didn't like that very much.
Yeah. Which actually had the guy who plays Rhodes in it.
Yeah, he was a cop.
Yep, he was in it for like 10 seconds, but they cut that part out.
Bastards.
And so that's why they brought him on to. Well, actually, they brought him on. According to George A. Romero, they brought him on because they could afford him. Pretty much, they're like, yeah, we got more money, so come on.
Well, see, they probably just didn't want him yelling at people in that movie.
Oh man.
Oh, God.
During a vacation break in filming, makeup artist Greg Nicotero used the realistic and gruesome model of his own head, as seen in a laboratory scene in the film, which I didn't realize that was who that was, to play a practical joke on his own mother.
Oh, dude, big dude, fucking W's. They put that. There's a Twitter page, guys posting their W's. That story needs to be
so good.
On there.
Real pig intestines were used during the gore scenes to.
I'm going to tell you a very specific scene and with a very funny story attached to that later. Very funny and horrible story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you told me.
Do you have any trivia on this? Do you have anything that you can think of from like behind the scenes stuff?
Not hugely as far as behind the scenes, except for that one bit, but I want to do it when we get to that part because I think it'll make more sense than it will. I mean, it will, but it'll work better then, I think. But there's definitely
a lot. There's a lot. Well, there's this movie. The budget for this film was $7 million, but the studio said, "We'll give you that $7 million if you can make this an R-rated film." George A. Romero said, "Nope, I want it to be unrated." So they said, "Well, then you can have half the budget." So he got $3.5 million.
Well, I mean, at least it made over its budget, but yeah, I mean, I wonder if this movie was just lost in it because, like you said, it was the era of the sequels. It came out in 1985. Like, I mean, I wonder if it just got lost because it wasn't a slasher movie.
Mm-hmm. Much like Big Daddy in Land of the Dead, which I've actually never seen, Bub is never seen attacking a living human for food, and thus only kills the main human antagonist as an act of revenge.
Dude, it's great.
Bub did, however, consume the butchered flesh and organs of a recently deceased Private Johnson and Private Miller, given to him by Dr. Logan, implying he has not entirely lost his taste for human flesh.
Well, he explains during the movie why they do what they do. So
during the opening dream sequence, when zombie arms attacked Sarah through the wall, one of them was Laurie Cardill's husband.
Yep, and I had heard that the wall, the first time they did it, fell over on her.
Oh
no! It wasn't structurally sound enough. No! But yeah, then they had to rebuild it and do it again. Poor lady.
Okay, the large column building in the opening scenes filmed in Fort Myers is now an art museum and used as a host an annual zombie fest. I wonder where ZombieCon is.
I want to go to ZombieCon.
I've been to Fort Myers.
That'd be dope as shit.
This is weird. George A. Romero originally intended the film to be the Gone of the Wind of zombie films. What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, who doesn't want their film to be like the great, the greatest thing since sliced bread? So
I mean, Gone of the Wind was good.
Fun fact. So for the original of the Dead trilogy, every movie has, so in Night of the Living Dead, there are 0 survivors from the original like house. Like no one survives in that initial crew.
Yep.
In Dawn of the Dead, 2 people survive. And in this movie, 3 people survive. So it kind of like grows up. I don't like how like they went from 0 to 2 to 3. Like you got to kind of like, come on, man. What are you doing? In the remake of Dawn of the Dead, no one survives because they had some
in the original
weird
Dawn
ass
of the Dead. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I have seen that movie. It's been a long time, but I have seen that movie.
Bub is the first zombie in the series seen aiming and firing a gun. Oh, and what kind of gun does he use?
Shoot. It's not. Well, when he's first handed a gun, it's a 1911.
Okay.
Earlier in the film. Later, I actually didn't really pay much attention to it. I'm gonna.
Oh my
I know.
goodness, that's surprising.
Hold on. I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna say it was either a 90 a Beretta 92, or it was an FN of some type.
So the handgun that Bub uses in the movie poster and to shoot Captain Rhodes with near the end is a Colt Gold Cup National Match Mark IV Series 70. I don't know what that is. I mean, it's a gun, but I don't. I didn't know that.
I don't. It's just a very different Colt they make, I guess.
Honestly, I'm surprised you didn't look that up.
All right. Well, if we got anything else, there's a lot of trivia here.
Yeah, because I pointed out the other guns because they use Uzis and M16A2s probably. I don't know what A model. It's either an A. It's probably an A2.
Okay. Well, are you ready for the plot?
Let's do it.
my version of the plot, and you help me fill in the blanks.
Oh, come on, man.
So the movie opens with a woman sitting in a cell, or I guess a cell, just an empty room. She's sitting against the wall with her head down, and she looks up, and there's a calendar on the wall. And it's the month of October, and all the days are marked off. It is Halloween on this day. Well, in this situation. She goes up to look at the calendar, and then a bunch of hands shoot out of the wall. But guess what? It was just a dream, everybody, because she's in a helicopter. I don't know why. It's probably not safe to be daydreaming on a helicopter when the door is wide open, but this woman did it. This is Sarah, and this helicopter is flying over an empty Florida city, which we then find out is Fort Myers. They land, and her and another guy jump out of the helicopter. They run down the street. They stand in the middle of the street, and you literally hear this man yell, "Hey!" Was he just screaming, "Anybody out there?" And he just keeps saying it like over and over and over again. And then it pans to the empty streets where there's just abandoned cars and trash. And then you go by a bank. And what's in the door of the bank? A massive alligator with 2 massive zombies standing next or behind him. All right. And then slowly, as you're exploring the abandoned, desolate city, that's when you start hearing the moaning and the zombies starting to come out of all the side streets and the alleyways, and they start going towards the sound. And that's when we get probably one of the coolest zombies in the movie is a zombie with his entire bottom of his jaw completely missing. It's just like dangly flesh. And that's when we get the awesome, and his tongue's dangly. And then we get the title card, Day of the Dead.
Can I mention about how much I absolutely adore the music for this film?
Oh, it's an 80s movie. It's an 80s.
I love the synth horror like so much, especially the beginning scene where she's in the room with the zombie arms. It's so good.
So the composer, so in the prior 2 of the Dead movies, so Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, George A. Romero it was pretty much like free to use music, like we would use when you're streaming on Twitch right now. You got to use music that's DMCA free or copyright free. That's pretty much what George A. Romero used for the music for those 2 films. Because during Dawn of the Dead, he had to switch it up because it didn't test well. So he just decided to change it up and just use that type of music. Well, this was the first of the Dead movie. He used a composer, and he came out with this music, and a lot of people didn't like it. They felt like it just didn't fit for this type of movie. Listen, I was like, man, this is an 80s movie if I've ever heard it.
Yes.
Because the music just makes it an 80s movie.
I will say in Dawn of the Dead, though, that he did use some music performed by a band because the Goblins did some music for the
that was the original, though. he then went back and there's a version with the music by the Goblins, and then there's a version with the music, the copyright free music, the free to use.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's a zombie street party here in Fort Myers. They decide no one's here that's alive, so they're gonna fly back to this underground base.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
And boy, there's a yes. How many times are we gonna hear that from our?
I think it's 4 or 5 times you get that in the movie.
What is this guy's name? McDermott.
I think so.
Yeah, we meet McDermott and John, who I just called the pilot for this entire movie because I didn't hear his name until almost the end of the movie.
Jamaican John,
and the actor who plays Jamaican John, not really Jamaican.
Nope, probably not.
Nope, he's really not. I watched the behind the scenes of this. He's not Jamaican. So yeah, we get to this base. There's a couple military guys on the surface, and one is growing a lot of weed. Love it.
Yes,
Just a lot of weed.
High times, brother.
Zombies. I'm gonna keep that in. I'm not even editing that out. The damn zombies.
That's right.
The zombies are storming the gates. The Jamaican pilot is a frisky one, man. He's just like, I just want to get out of here. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm gonna fly away, go somewhere, remote, and not have to deal with this. And then we have Miguel, the man who was yelling for people in the street. He's tweaking. He is completely gone. He's having a mental breakdown, and we get Sarah trying to talk to him, and he has these weird monologues where he just goes completely super, his eyes get super big, and he's just going at her. You're like, all right, dude, I'm just trying to help, and time to get inside. Shit, and he just runs off like a kid who just didn't get what he wanted. Just get out of here. I'm just gonna go. We then go down to the bunker, and we get to ride along with a couple hooligans in a cave of RVs. There's RVs everywhere in this cave or this tunnel system. And the two hooligans are one of my least favorite characters of this movie is Steele and Rickles, two of the military guys. And God, these guys are the most extreme characters I think I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Oh gosh.
And I don't know what's going on. They're just driving on a golf cart through this. There's so many RVs everywhere.
Well, it was a storage facility, so
yeah, that makes sense.
It was filmed. That actually was filmed in that part was filmed in Pennsylvania in an underground storage facility. It used to be a mine.
Oh yeah, I saw that it used to get super hot down there, and the crew was always there were parts where the crew was super miserable filming because they had to deal with bats and humidity and all that shit.
Humidity, I know, messed with a bunch of the equipment.
Bats.
They got to go round up some bodies.
Yep, they get to go capture some zombies.
Come on, Miguel, you got to come with. He's not
ready for this. He shouldn't be doing this.
He's not ready for that. Get your ass over here, soldiers. No one else around. So she goes to.
And Steele goes up to the top and he starts yelling at the zombies, calling them, "Don't
come on, you dumb fucks, get out of here!"
There's a lot of things that Steele says in this movie that we cannot say on this podcast. He is a very bad man. He says a lot of racist things.
Extremely racist.
He is just not a good person.
No.
He says he clearly hates Miguel because he has Miguel who is he's having a mental breakdown. He's exhausted. He brings him up and he's the guy who has to hold the pole when they wrap a zombie and he's got to hold him back. And this dude almost falls over. He drops the pole. The zombie almost gets Rickles, and then Steele shoots the zombie and then gets super pissed off at Miguel and he dangles him over another zombie "You almost killed Rickles." I was like, what is happening right now? We're 10 minutes into this movie and this movie's already out of its mind.
Well, they had to round him up. They had to round up some zombies for
Dr. Frankenstein. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. So Miguel is losing his mind. Sarah's trying to sedate him and he pretty much swipes it out of his hand and he then proceeds to slap her. Does he slap her in this scene? That. Yes. The actress.
She asked him to do But this is later when they go back to their bunk.
Right, yeah.
He gets pissed at her you made me look like shit out there. It was fucking baby.
Yeah.
Would you rather have died?
Yeah. He's
the one that fucked up.
Yeah, he's crazy.
She could have just let it go.
All right.
And then everybody would have died.
So she finally is able to sedate him because were they a thing Or was this
Yeah.
just a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so they were.
No, they're
okay.
together. Yeah. They're
Okay. I thought it was
Yeah,
just some sort of like joke that they were like
Rhodes
fucking with
makes
him.
a joke about her keeping him up.
with extracurriculars.
Yeah,
Right.
extracurriculars.
Mm.
Yeah, needs
Well,
to cut off his extracurricular
Behind the
activities.
scenes, before that, Lori asked the actor that played Miguel to asked him to actually hit her. He's
Yeah.
like, I want you. She's like, I want you to actually hit me to like sell the scene better, make
Yep.
it more intense, and he did twice.
So yeah, she finally gets to sedate him after he pretty much knocks it out of her hand the first time. She tricks him because she gives him a hug, and then she gets him, and then he goes to sleep. We then have a meeting of the minds between the scientists and the military guys. We find out that the guy who was in charge of the military group had died while they were off.
I can't remember his name.
Oh no, was it Cooper? I think maybe Cooper. I don't remember.
Was it Sergeant something? I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, the guy who was in charge, he dies. So now this Colonel Rhodes, is he Colonel Rhodes?
It's Captain Rhodes.
Captain Rhodes. He is now in charge, and this man is super extra. Like this man is, woo, he is, what the, holy shit.
I adore him so much.
I have to
He's a piece
say
of
something
shit.
about Miguel's little temper tantrum that he throws when Sarah gets him with the needle. He's like, oh.
Yeah. This guy is
what?
this guy is wild.
Could you act more like a toddler?
This guy is wild. So yeah, Sarah is getting no respect as she is the only woman. And of course, these guys are kind of, she's the only woman. There's a lot of guys in this whole situation. So of course, she's not going to get any respect. They pretty much see her as just being there for them to look at. And I love it when her and Rhodes are going back and forth. And then Rhodes pretty much is like, you need to go take care of Frankenstein. You need to see what the hell he's doing. And you guys need to do your job. And she goes out and she's like, fuck you, sir.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
So good.
Well, the thing is the military is supposed to be guarding the scientists. Here.
Yes.
Because the scientists are trying to figure out why they're becoming zombies or if they can stop them from becoming zombies. And the military group is there to protect them. But nobody wants to do this anymore.
No.
Like they've been there way too long.
So we then meet Dr. Frankenstein, aka Dr. Logan, which is his real name. And he is another one who is so invested in what he's doing. He doesn't give a shit about anybody else. Like he is experimenting and doing some crazy. This is where you get a lot of really good effects on the zombies he's experimenting on.
Yeah.
And we then see he shows a body, and it's just the body and the brainstem and the brain, but the head's gone, completely gone. And you find out that was the guy who was in charge before. That was his body. Yeah. It's crazy. And then he got
like, you can't tell them this. They're gonna kill you if they find out you did this.
Yeah.
And then he talks about like, oh no, because I'm researching this. And he explains how he's trying to figure out why the primal instinct, the center, like essentially where the brain really mounts to the spinal column, like that is the last part of the body that's affected by the decay of them becoming zombies. And actually when they become zombies, it slows the decaying process, which is pretty interesting. I love all that stuff.
He says there's a lot, like this man doesn't give a fuck. Like he doesn't give a fuck about authority. He is straight up like, he's a savage when it comes to any interaction he has with Rhodes.
Oh yeah.
He's like, we're fucked. He literally would tell Rhodes anytime. He's like, we're fucked. You do realize this. So what I'm trying to do is good. And you just need to shut the fuck up.
Yep.
So yeah, he wants to try. So Logan is trying to figure out a way. He's trying to figure out why they're turning, like humans are turning into zombies. And he also wants to try to control and domesticate the dead. So he wants to try to make them do things for him to try to stop. Try to turn off the need to eat flesh and kind of bring them back to more of a human-like state.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, so he was Cooper. I have it in my notes. That guy was named Cooper.
Yeah.
And I love this.
I could not remember.
I
could not remember it.
And then we get the zombie that wakes up on the table and it turns and all of its insides fall to the floor.
Oh, so good, dude.
And Sarah kind of freaks out a little bit. And the guy, and he just goes over with the drill and just drills it in its forehead.
Yeah.
And it is,
yep.
It's okay. Yep.
What an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And my next note is I can't wait for Steel to die. And Rhodes sucks too. This dude is out of his mind. So much jerking off talk. There was so much talk of jerking off in like a 30-second period.
Yeah.
God, movies in the 80s. Ridiculous. Bloody Logan comes in, steals the scene with his I don't give a shit attitude.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's just military broism anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. But I just love it. It's super extreme in this movie, and it's great.
I just love Logan because he just doesn't give a shit about what Rhodes says. Like, is there any food?
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? He's like, is there any food?
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, prior to that, before Logan shows up, Rhodes bitches out Sarah for Rhodes Rhodes bitches out Sarah for Logan not being there, and she tries to leave, and he tells Steele to fucking kill her.
Yep.
Oh, that was after, right?
No, it was before this because
she
sits back down, and then Logan's supposed to come in, right?
Yeah, because he says when they go to find Logan, he yells at him, dinner, or there's a meeting at 7. I expect you to be there.
Yes.
Or I expect all of you to be there.
And that was when the fuck you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fuck you, sir. Yeah. And then she leaves, and then when they do the next meeting, she tries to walk out before Logan gets there, and that's when you kind of realize
sit down.
Really, just where everything. And Steele's like, Steele's like, he's fucking around, like, bang,
you're
like,
dead.
Just pulls out his revolver, and he's like, not fucking around at all. He's like, all right, I'll do it. And he did. Okay, admittedly, as much of an asshole as Steele is, he did not want to shoot her.
No, I think Steele's a dick.
Yeah,
but he's not a murderer.
John was going to put himself in, or he was either going to stand up and go get Logan, or he was going to step in front so they did not shoot her.
Yeah, because he was trying to get her to sit the fuck down. And then that's when Logan just kind of boop, 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 walks in. Where's food at? Sorry, I'm late. I was working.
What have you been doing, Logan?
Listen here. Listen, I'm in charge of this monkey farm, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time.
He's like, they're overrunning us 400,000 to 1. You're like, holy fuck, man.
Yeah. Which I think if they went by, I was reading a thing, I think they said if that's the case, 400,000 to 1, based on the population of the U.S. at this time, it was like there's like 600 people left.
Yeah, it's like 638 people. It's wild. Yeah. So we then we have the scene we're back in the room with Miguel, and this is where she has a dream that Miguel rolls over and his insides fall out. And then she wakes up and he's like cowering in the corner, and then they have a conversation. And this is when he full out slaps her a couple times. And
that's right. That's when.
And she's like, "No, you get the fuck out!" And then he storms off. And that's I guess this is the breakup scene.
Oh, don't forget, we missed the part earlier when Sarah goes and talks to Logan in his lab first. Bub's in there. That's actually the first time. Oh yes,
Bub is chained up on the wall. Right.
Yeah, but he doesn't really do much except you think it's going to attack her, and he doesn't. He's like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah, when you first like, for somebody like me, and then for Angela who have never seen this movie, I'd like in that scene, he was just a zombie chained to the wall. Yeah, I didn't even think anything of him. He was just like, "Oh shit, he's there." But then you see him later on, you're like, "Oh shit, this fucking thing is awesome. I love him."
Bub's the shit.
Bub's awesome. The army man. There's an army man brawl in the hallway. There's just guys that just burst out of a room and just start fighting, and she's just like dodging everybody. And that's when John comes, or no, that's when McDermott comes, right? Or is it John who brings? No, McDermott.
It's McDermott,
the alcoholic pilot who's from, I think he's Irish. I couldn't tell by his accent. It was a little weird. He grabs her, brings her out, and he decides they're gonna go hang out where McDermott and John hang out. That's where they stay, deep in the cave.
Is this the scene where first time she noticed she's taking pills?
Well,
like
who's
prior to
taking
that,
pills?
she's working in her office
alone, and
then she comes out, opens the cabinet, takes a pill, get a drink. Was that after this scene, or was that before this?
Yeah, because she can hear things in the room.
Yeah,
she does it twice.
Yeah, she does it like 2 times because this is where I think with Sarah's character, you get, because she has these dream sequences. We get them multiple times. Obviously, she puts up a tough front, but she's clearly troubled mentally.
Yeah.
But doesn't show it. And obviously, she's having a horrible time sleeping. So she's clearly taking some kind of pill to keep her awake.
Right.
So, but anyway, everybody's fucked up. Remember, everybody.
So they venture into the caves to go hang out at McDermott. No, it's just, is it McDermott? Yeah, McDermott.
McDermott
and John's. They pretty much like pimped out an RV. and they're
Yeah.
chilling in it.
Or
And
get away.
did you see the bat fly across?
I did see the
Was
bat
it a
fly
real
across.
bat? Because it didn't look like it. It looked like a bat was on a wire, and they just kind of you're like, okay, that was
We want a
weird.
bat in here. We don't have any money in the budget. Well, we'll make it work.
So they meet. So they have this awesome pad. Like that's where I'd want to be hanging out. I don't know what. Fuck hanging out with them crazy people. I want to hang out in this awesome like deck area, this patio. He's hanging out in these comfy chairs, getting
Got
drunk
like that
every
big
night.
picture, like the big picture of the beach behind it.
Hell yeah, that's where I want to be. John talks about how everything they're doing down there is bullshit, and it's pretty much all punishment from God in that ideology. Sure.
Well, I will say, out of every, I think at least in the first 3 Dead movies, there's always like that one really good, like objective opinion about what's going on. Like someone's like thought or whatever about how this whole situation. I think the second one nailed it the best, but this one's just, it's okay. It's fine. Like this whole punishment from God thing, because I don't know. Yeah, it didn't feel as good as the one from Dawn of the Dead, where he's talking about his voodoo grandfather when, there's no room left in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
There's no room left in hell, the dead shall walk the earth.
Yeah. I like that way better than. Anyway, that's just random shit.
Logan is a little off his rocker. This is the scene where she goes to take a sip of water at the water fountain, and she takes another pill, and she can hear commotion going on in the room, and it's that other scientist. I can't remember his name, but they go in there, and he's having issues with the 2 zombies that were caught in the beginning, and they're giving him issue. And that's when Logan comes in and pretty much puts this zombie in timeout. Like he literally is like, you sit in the dark, think about what you did. We're going to get out of here. And you're like,
and then like,
okay.
Sarah and this other like scientists are just looking at each other. What the fuck? And then it plays the music from the Goblins music from Dawn of the Dead. There's a little jingle of it when the zombie's like, "Why? Where the lights go?"
It's like, what? It's so good. We then go into another room, and this is where Logan shows off his big experiment, and we meet Bub.
Yes,
pretty much a domesticated zombie. Like this one is smart. He gives him a book, a razor, and what was the third thing he had in the
toothbrush?
A toothbrush. And he pretty much knows the different things that you would do with those things. Like the thing that really kind of freaked me out a little bit is, even though it was very minor, was when he's using the razor on his face and a little bit of his skin comes off in it, and you're like, man, I just watched, like, there's a part in this movie where a dude gets ripped in 7 pieces, and I was like, hell yeah. But that part, I was like, ooh, yeah,
just
I felt that one.
And it doesn't go away.
I know the feeling. I've done that before.
You see those marks for the rest of the movie.
Yep, I love it. So yeah,
but did you notice the book? Yeah,
it's Salem's Lot by Stephen King.
Because George Romero and Stephen King were friends.
Yep. So this is where we get to see frickin' Rickles and Steele again, because we have to meet these fucking idiots.
Rickles like that annoying, Rickles is like that annoying jackass that just hangs out with like the bigger, tougher guy, and they just kind of like do dumb jokes and laugh at their own stupid shit. Yeah, he's that guy.
I'm cool.
So yeah, this is
that little tumor that latches on to people.
So yeah, so these 2 buffoons in Rhodes show up, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing in here?" And that's when he tells him to salute him. He's like, "I'm not saluting that thing." And that's when Logan walks in front and salutes. And then that's when Bub salutes too. But he also gives him a gun, takes the bullets out, and Bub picks it up and aims it at Rhodes and shoots it, but there's nothing in it, and he gets pissed. He sees he knows there's no bullets in it, and he gets angry. Not like super caveman angry, but he gets annoyed because he wants to kill this guy.
Yeah, he did when Rhodes didn't salute him back. You see him when he saluted first, and then Rhodes didn't salute back right away. He scowls at him. Yeah, because he mentions that, of course, it seemed like Bub was in the military, used to be. That's why he saluted, because he's seen Rhodes' uniform, which is cool. I like that.
Logan is always telling Rhodes off, and it's always great. Just how it's perfect.
But you notice Logan doesn't even really need to raise his voice. He just tells him essentially go the fuck away. Let me do my shit.
I'm doing my job. You do your job. And stop being so goddamn angry all the time. We get more zombie capturing with Steele, but chaos ensues as again. Miguel wasn't at this one, was he?
He was.
He was, and he drops.
It was Miguel again.
Yeah, he has the zombie, and he drops the stick, and the zombie attacks one of the guys, and this is where you get your first.
The thing breaks.
the collar.
The collar breaks.
You're
Collar
right.
snap.
Yeah, the collar
Yeah.
snaps off. The zombie attacks one of the men. Was this Johnson?
No. This Johnson was not the one that got bit. It was Johnson. The guy got bit, and then while he's getting shot, he's like firing his gun, and he shoots Johnson
Okay.
with the M16.
So so Johnson or one of the soldiers gets bit in the neck, and you get the really great bite effects where like it literally bites and he pulls, and you see the tendons and shit come out.
Ooh.
And and as he's like in agony, he's got a machine gun, and he just starts rapidly shooting it, killing another soldier. And then he's on the ground, and he's pretty much pleading with Steele to kill him.
Well, Miguel like loses his shit. He's like, I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault, because it really wasn't his fault.
Yeah,
No,
like
he
the
collar
couldn't have
breaks.
controlled that.
And he like attacks the zombie that's out there, like starts like attacking it or whatever, and it bites his arm.
Yep, it bites his arm. So then Sarah has to get him away. So she goes towards McDermott.
Well, he runs.
Or
Yeah,
he
that's
runs
right, he drags
away.
him off.
Yeah,
And then she finds, because he's like,
yeah, he's like
Such a
flailing around.
toddler.
He's so weird, man. This dude is just so weird. We get the bat again in the same spot of the cave. Like it's like this is definitely a bat on a wire that they're just kind of throwing across because it's the same exact spot. It's fantastic. So they have to. So John comes out. He helps Sarah hold Miguel down, and she chops off his arm to help.
she hits him on the back of the head with a fucking rock.
Oh,
first.
that's
And, like
right.
knock.
She just might as well have just killed him there.
she-
Like she knocks him the fuck out with that rock, and he's laying there. John holds him down. She takes a machete, and she chops his arm off
But it doesn't go all
above
the way
the bite.
Doesn't
Yeah, but
go
she
all the
has
way
to. Yeah, she has to do it again.
Watch if you ever, I know you said you probably wouldn't, but anybody that's listening to this, watch that scene again when she goes down and hits, and it goes like halfway through the meat, like it hits a bone, and you watch the actor's hand spray out. When she does that, I'm like, fuck, that's the one scene. I was like, that's good. Because the actor like acts like, oh god, it's so good. Even though it's knocked the fuck out, like it does like the hand twitch. She has to like hit it a few times to get it to go through.
So Rickles, Steele, and Rhodes show up, and this is when Steele has to spew out all the racist slurs. What? Like, god damn it! Shut the fuck up, dude.
About Hispanic people.
Yeah, he's just bad. So yeah, they're pretty much like, no, he needs to come back. Like he needs to die. He got bit. Blah blah blah. All this crap, and that's when they just say, he's gonna stay out here. He's gonna stay in our trailer, and they're like, fine, but you guys aren't allowed back in the base. They're like, whatever. But of course, immediately after that, Sarah and McDermott, or Sarah's like, I need to go get morphine from the lab. And McDermott's like, well, I'll go with you. They go to the lab, they get stuff, but they also that's when McDermott discovers all the things that Logan's been doing. Like literally one of the guys that literally just died 5 minutes ago, he's got wires and shit plugged into this dude's head, and his head's just tweaking out.
Yeah, he's cut his head off. He has cut this dude's head off.
Yeah. And it's like, it's doing the weird twitching and all that. And because he gets blood on him. Oh man, such cool effects.
And then again, even though I know he's horrible for you saying what he says in the film, earlier, after the one dude that gets bit and he begs Steele to kill him, Steele does end up shooting him in the head. That's why I knew it wasn't that guy, because the head on the table doesn't have a bullet hole in it. Mm-hmm. So I knew it had to be the other guy got shot. But anyway, obviously Steele doesn't even want to do that. Steele's super hesitant to shoot the guy. He's like, he knows he does it, but he's just, he's a dickhead, yes, but he's not an absolutely horrible individual. He's just a piece of shit.
So before all that, them going to the lab, this is the first time we see Sarah break, because throughout this movie she's put on a very good she's been very tough, and all that's, and a lot of people tell her that she's like, you don't have to put on this, you don't always have to be this tough in a situation like this, but that's what she is. But after she chops off Miguel's arm and the three douchey soldiers leave, she completely breaks to John and starts crying. So yeah,
I was gonna say, since we're over talking about everybody being kind of fucked up in this movie, my fucked up thing for McDermott and John is just that they don't care.
Yeah,
they have a lack of compassion for the entire situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's just their way of dealing. Just like, don't care.
Yep.
Just disconnect. But anyway, go ahead.
Get emotionally attached to anything.
Yep.
So they clean up Crazy Man and get him to Betty Bye. They need to go to the lab and get morphine.
Even though they tell John tells Sarah, he's like, he's not gonna make this. Probably not gonna live through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I know, but I gotta try. Got to give him a chance. And even Rhodes says that. He's like, I've seen this thousands of times. That dude's as good as dead.
We then
she cauterized his arm with
with the flame. Oh, that's right. She takes the flame and just. Oh my God. What a scene that was. While they're in the lab looking for stuff and they discover all the weird shit that Logan's doing, McDermott discovers a recorder and it starts talking, and it's Logan talking to Mother. He says something about Mother, which I never figured it out. Like, what the hell is he talking about?
Well, if earlier in the movie, if you pay attention to his mannerisms, obviously there's something deeply wrong with this man. But he mentions earlier when he's talking to Sarah and then that other scientist that he talks about his dad a lot. And now his dad always told him he'd never make money being a research scientist. And he kind of dwells on it for a minute. It's all really subtle. And like, as the film goes on, like these scenes and stuff, and you start hearing his recorders, if you watch his facial expressions, this actor nails the fuck out of like a subtle psychosis this dude has. Yeah. And it's really good. Until, of course, later, at this point, it's blatantly obvious. But like leading up to that, just like little twitches and just the way he talks and like his mannerisms in the film totally does a good job.
Yeah. So, so we then see Bub again, and he's listening to some tunes, and he is very smart.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say, I'm sorry not to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I think the other thing is the reason why Logan is doing this whole, like, Bub's the good one, right? Bub's the one that listens. He's the most cooperative, and he rewards him. His whole thing's based on reward.
Yep.
He always talks about give them rewards, and they'll do what we ask him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Logan was extremely abused as a child between his parents and never got praise or appreciation for anything he did. Because like his dad apparently was a doctor, or no, he said his doctor was, because he's like, they used to call my dad Bub. That's a funny name for a surgeon. Like, that's a funny name for a surgeon, because and then he even talks about like his dad and parents apparently being super successful and him never amounting to that, and him having this inferiority complex to his parents, and just never ever got anything from them, praise for doing anything he ever did in his life. And I think with everything going on, it's just amplified. And it's why he is with Bub and the whole reward treat thing.
Gotcha.
And the recording could have also been him having hallucinations.
It could have been.
So
he is talking about, like, he sounds like he's doing like a mom, parent kid thing with some of the other zombies, not just Bub. Because in that interaction, he's talking to his mom or something not listening, and you can hear him hitting something. It sounds like he's like beating the shit out of one of the zombies, like disciplining.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, carry on.
So Bub is listening to some tunes. He's got some headphones, and that's when Logan is kind of showing him how to turn on the recorder, because he turns it off, and Bub gets all like antsy, and then he points him down to the button to press it. Do they discover the bodies in the freezer?
That's soon, because they're watching him through one of those two-way mirrors as he's doing this with Bub.
And they come into the room.
Yeah, and there was actually that scene where Logan reaches over to grab adjust Bub's microphone or headset.
Yeah.
And Bub grabs his arm and looks at his arm like he's going to do something, and then looks back up at him and just lets go of him, and he adjusts it. And you realize that even though he is a zombie, like, he obviously gives a shit about Dr. Logan.
Mm-hmm. So they're Sarah and McDermott are looking through the window watching all this happen. And then that's when the douchey soldiers come in, and they're like, "What are you doing here? We told you not to come here." And then they come in and they confront Logan, and that's when they go to the freezer, or they see him. Oh no, so Logan has a bucket of meat in it for Bub as like a reward, and he gives it to Bub after he teaches him the recorder thing, and they see him eating it. And that's when they go to the freezer, and they discover that that's where there's bodies of the dead soldiers, and he's been feeding Bub and other zombies the remains of the dead soldiers, which then pisses off Rhodes, and he just murks Logan. He uses so much ammo on this man.
Everybody does that in this movie. I do not understand that.
Rhodes murks the second scientist and threatens the pilot to fly them out, using Sarah and co-pilot as bait.
Yeah, because Sarah and the other scientists are in there with them when they murk Logan, and then they take all their guns away. They do their belt, guns and stuff drop on the floor, and then they go to the trailer.
Yep.
And they're like, "Hey, yeah, McDermott's there too. There too."
Like, but they kill the other scientists because they pretty much like, you're going to do this or I kill him. And he says no, and he immediately shoots him. It's like, nah, you don't fuck with Rhodes. Like, Rhodes is not a guy that you can reason with. This man is so far gone. Yeah. He doesn't care. So they he tells John, you need to fly us out. He says no, kills the scientist, and that's when he grabs Sarah and McDermott and put them in the little zombie retriever section there. And it's like, well, they're gonna die. And then they end up escaping from that, and they run into the caves.
McDermott grabs like a log, like a big piece of wood, and then they just bolt and start just bonking zombies out of the way.
And we hear he says Jesus, Mary, and Joseph for the third or fourth time.
Yep.
John gets roughed up by Steele, like he gets his ass whooped by Steele.
Oh yeah.
As Sarah and McDermott make a run for it, and that's when they hear the elevator. And they're like, "What's that? Sounds like the elevator." And so that's when they storm off to see what's going on, and you find out that it's Miguel.
Steele, Rickles, and then that one other nameless soldier.
Yeah.
That's just there. I'm like, who's this guy? Like,
And so it just leaves Rhodes there with John, but you find out that Miguel was the one who activated the elevator. He's there. He's going up. Bub sets himself free. Just his chains just end up breaking.
Yeah, he's like fucking with it, like chewing on it, and it kind of
I think just falls apart. Sarah and McDermott get attacked, but they do some really cool moves on the zombies, and you even get the cool like shovel to the mouth.
Oh, it's like
half decapitation, and then the head rolls and it's upside down, and they're running away, and the eyes are still moving.
Yes,
that was good.
Miguel kind of does this thing before he runs to the elevator, where I know he's crazy as shit right now. He's whacked the hell out, but he kind of does this thing where he's always got like all those religious like necklaces, like various he like I guess
it's I think it's Catholic.
Okay, I guess he does this thing where he comes to peace and realizes what he's going to do, where he does like a little before he even runs off to the elevator.
Mm-hmm. John gets the better of Rhodes. He pretty much knocks him out. And Steele and Rickles suck, dude. They get to the elevator. Yep, they see. Yeah, John steals his guns after he knocks out Rhodes. He runs off to try to save Sarah and McDermott. Rickles and Steele get to the elevator, but the elevator's like deactivated. Like Miguel fucked with all the wires, so he can't fix it. And they're freaking out. But then they hear it pans up to Miguel up on the top, and he lets all the zombies out, runs to the elevator, lays on it, and pretty much accepts his fate as the zombies start gnawing on him. But he pretty much he wants to bring the zombies to the base. He wants to wipe everybody out.
This is a trope and a hallmark of all the Romero movies, is that while the zombies are scary, they're ultimately never the real reason why all this falls apart. It's always the people.
It's always a human. Yep.
It's always the people that fuck it up. And yeah, like he just lost his shit. He's like, fuck this. They're crazy. I'm crazy. I'm just going to wipe them all out. We're all going to die. Because he gets it bad, dude. He gets gnawed on for a while.
Yeah, he does.
That button.
Yeah, he does.
Fuck him. I hate Miguel. I hate him.
Yeah, he does suck. And then we get the bat again. The bat just stop this bat. Who is in charge of the bats?
Oh, yeah.
And John has perfect accuracy. This man is a Call of Duty pro, bro. He is headshotting everything. Like, just every single shot he takes is a headshot.
He's like quick scoping.
360 no scope.
Yeah.
So Miguel sets the zombies free into the compound. Pretty much, I like the scene where the elevator's coming down and it's just covered in zombies. And then I love it when it gets up and falls down.
Takes like one big step. And
I am guessing that extra fell on accident, and they're like, "Fuck it, that's cool." He just like starts crawling. He doesn't get himself back up again. He's just crawling.
He's dedicated. I love that.
It's scene. Just so good. The elevator ride down as Rhodes to meet Rhodes and the gang. Rhodes steals a golf cart and just drives away from Steele and Rickles, and Steele's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, and then the other guys there too. Steele, Rickles, and
the other guy. And this guy gets a fucking death. If you've ever seen a death, this man gets one. This one gets murked.
It hurt. That one hurt.
Yeah, Bub finds Logan and is very sad. So it's zombie revenge time.
Yeah, because he's trying he's like, hey, he like points out like I'm off my chain. Like check this out, and then he realizes he's.
But no, he goes and shows Logan. And he's all sad because
he's mad. He's legitimately like upset.
look what I did.
Yeah, and why
And he
aren't you
comes and tells
moving?
them. He's like, gonna tell him like I'm off my leash essentially. Like he was just.
Yeah.
Bub's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And then he like loses his shit and he finds the pistols on the ground.
Yep. So the soldier, so that we get the random soldier who like gets pinned down, and this is when the literally a zombie just puts its fingers, the thumb in the mouth and two of them in the eyeballs like a bowling ball, and they just proceed to rip his head off, and you can see the skin stretching and and he just gets torn to shreds. One of my favorite deaths of the movie.
Yeah, and as he's screaming, his voice goes high pitched. Yeah, his vocal cords are getting stretched.
So good.
It's so good.
It's so good. The kills in this movie are fantastic.
Oh, it's just painful.
Oh yeah.
And then Rickles is the next to die. And
he just loses his shit.
Is he laughing as he's getting torn to shreds?
Yes.
This man is out of his mind.
He is laughing for like some of it where he's getting attacked, and then it switches to screaming. And I think he realizes that
it's crazy.
Dumbass.
So you bet. So now we have Steele. He's the only one left other than Rhodes. So you better run, Steele. And then we get Steele gets probably the lamest death. He ends up just shooting himself. He gets pinned. He gets pinned in a room and just shoots himself.
Oh, I wanted to be like, he puts the gun in his mouth and it just clicks because it's empty.
Yes, that would have been
I wanted
perfect.
that so bad.
See, we talked about this, and I actually kind of like the way he went out, because where he always tries to act like this tough, big, badass dude, like that's the way he ultimately chooses to go out at the end of it. And he does like the whole like cross thing before he shoots himself.
Yeah,
you're
going to hell. You're going to hell, Steele. So don't worry about it.
I liked how they did it, but I agree for just desserts kind of thing. But they show later what happens to his body after he kills himself.
There is so much. There is so much ammo used in this movie. Like there's just over excessive shots of just them. Like how many rounds are in this clip? Because it seems like it's like 3 times the amount that it should.
Well, they should know dealing with the dead in these movies is obviously they know they got to shoot them in the head. Like they should know. Why are they just like fanning randomly at bodies? And I understand in a situation very stressful, you would not like, I can do perfect headshots all the time. Like, no, you'd be stressed the fuck out. But they don't even try. They're just like everywhere.
So they got to get Johnny, McDermott, and Sarah. They got to get up a ladder to try to get to the surface. And Bub. Bub finally runs into Rhodes.
I would say another thing is what is it? I don't remember if it's when John runs in to get him out of the pendant area, but I think he leaves the door open because the zombies start coming out from under the corral and they're coming in from up above. So they literally have nowhere to go. They're pinned from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead. Sorry.
So Bub is meets up with Rhodes, but he runs into him, and that's when he pulls up the gun and he starts shooting at him.
Yeah.
And he gets him.
He hits him.
Yeah, and then you get it, and then Rhodes gets around the corner, and that's when Bub comes around the corner. He shoots him again, and that's when like Rhodes is dragging himself across the floor.
Yeah,
and that's when Bub just kind of he finally gets up. He gets shot one more time, right?
Yep.
And that's when he opens. That's when he opens up the doors, and it's just a swarm of zombies coming through, and it's just that terrified face of I'm fucked, and he gets swarmed by the zombies. And what does he say as he's getting torn apart?
He's yelling "choke" on him.
Yeah, which is ad-libbed by the actor.
Yeah,
it wasn't in the script.
And then that's when Bub salutes him.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will say one thing. Do you have trivia about this scene? Because I do.
I know. Go ahead.
Okay, this is what I was telling you about. Okay, so this scene, right? They tried to give the Rhodes the bad one, Of course, I think the dude who got his head ripped off was worse. But Rhodes is definitely up there because he literally gets pulled clean in half.
And they're dragging his lower part
everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. So that is real pig intestine they use in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were going to film that, they had the pig intestine stored on set. Well, the night before, the fridge it was in shot out.
So it was disgusting.
So it was stagnant, hot, stink. Everybody on that set, I think they had like one shot to do it.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Joseph Pilato just stuck with it. Like I think he talked about afterwards having to throw up because like he had to fight just vomiting while he was doing that. All of that, and all the extras had to do it too in that one scene. It had to be awful.
That's just terrible. Yeah. So he gets torn clean in half, and I love that the zombies are dragging his legs down the hallway, and then you get the shot of every like throughout the entire base as the different zombies are just having a feast. And there's this one zombie in the shadows. He's out in like the cave area and he's sitting on it looks like a stack of pallets. And he looks like just a guy sitting on pallets, just kind of chilling there, just eating a turkey leg. This one shot, I was like, man, he doesn't look like a zombie right now. He just looks like a dude enjoying his lunch.
Well, that's another shot. That's actually in all three of the original Romero trilogies. There's always like this, and there's like this long shot of just zombies just eating people. In all three of these movies.
Yep. So the three survivors make it to the top. They get to the helicopter, and you get another like jump scare where it's Sarah getting on the helicopter, and then she gets attacked.
Yeah.
But then it like immediately cuts, and she wakes up, and she's on a beach, and John and McDermott are fishing.
And it's November 4th.
Yep. So that whole so did the whole movie take place over 4 days?
I don't know, because it doesn't specify how long they were on the island. I would say at least a day or two.
Well, just because of the dream she had, and it was marked off to the 31st.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
By the way, that beginning scene where she's locked in that room is like almost a perfect summary film.
Yeah,
like being locked in and then like the zombies getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Very crudely, but I always like that.
And
but you never see anybody sleep, so you don't.
No.
Only Miguel.
only that son of a bitch.
Yeah, because he got some extra assistance.
Yeah, twice.
And that is the end.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Of Day of the Dead. To be honest, I enjoyed. I gotta say, I did enjoy watching it. I think I probably would watch it again. Not in the same way I watched it before. It took me like 3 hours to watch this movie because of internet issues. So that is episode 1 of our Spooktober reviews. Next week, we are going to be switching it up as we are going to be talking about one of it's Angela's favorite. It's one of my favorites. I love this movie. I've seen this movie way too many times. Beetlejuice with Michael Keaton. I cannot wait to rewatch this movie for the 1,000th time.
And a special surprise.
And a special surprise. And we're not going to tell you what that surprise is. You'll just have to tune in next week.
I'll be here. That's all I got to say.
Dan will be here.
Thank you for sitting through my movie. I'm kind of indifferent to
At least it wasn't a terrible movie.
We could have watched the Living Dead at Manchester Morgue with the boob scene. I was like, okay.
What?
Yep.
Okay, so there's this zombie. I gotta talk about this. Okay, so there's a zombie movie. It's a British zombie movie, 1973 or 2, and like it's real mundane. I was like, this is gonna be like a hokey, like crappy zombie movie. And like once the violence starts, it's like stupid, hyper violent. And there's a scene where a woman gets attacked. And I'll note there's no nudity in this movie. Day of the Dead, by the way.
No,
which I thought was
zero.
Super classy. Like, I'm fine with titties being in movies, but I thought it was classy that being an R-rated movie or an unrated movie, they didn't go that way.
I feel like because she was like the lead actress or the lead character, like I feel like it just didn't make sense.
Exactly. But there's a scene in this other movie, Living Dead, at Manchester Morgue, where this woman gets attacked and by zombies and her clothes get ripped off, and they literally just like rip her boob off. Just
yeah.
I was like, okay. It's like Velcro. Like, that's how it works.
Oh my, okay. Interesting.
I wasn't expecting it when I watched it either. So,
one last trivia that I didn't mention is this wasn't the only zombie movie that came out in 1985, and not the only movie. Return of the Living Dead.
Yes, which is by one of the other guys that helped create the original Night of the Living Dead, but he wanted to do his own version of it. Which Return of the Living Dead is actually pretty good. I like Return of the Living Dead. They quickly go downhill.
Yeah.
It's good trivia.
So I want to thank everybody for watching this episode. This was a lot of fun to talk about. Like I said, this is my first time watching this. Angela's first time watching it, and it was an interesting movie. You know, it was definitely felt like an 80s movie. Like I said, if you want to watch some really cool kills and really cool effects, watch this movie. It's kind of a slow burn in certain spots, but I feel the end is very satisfying.
I want to say one more thing. And I was talking to Angela about this. It's my last thing on it. This movie, if you took this movie and made it, like you could take this movie and make it now and you wouldn't know the difference. Because I don't feel there's anything in this film that dates itself. I mean, you could even say the dialogue or just not even counting the music, but like there's nothing specifically in it that just feels like obviously it's 80s, but like that screams this is a 1980s film.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally there's no specific technologies. They said the only time they bring up something specific is technology from World War II, but they're in that bunker. I don't feel there's anything you could literally take this movie, recast it with different people, shot for shot, and you wouldn't know. Like it wouldn't feel like dialogue for dialogue.
They don't talk about any significant events.
No, nothing
or anything like that.
Nope.
But anyway, I love the movie.
Yeah, this was more enjoyable than I expected it to be. So good pick, Dan.
A lot of optimism.
A lot
of optimism here.
So make sure to visit the YouTube channel, drop a like, a comment, and hit that subscribe button so we can hit that 100 subscribers so we can get our URL so it's easier for you to find the YouTube channel. Also, make sure to listen to the show on podcast services. We're available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. I guess they're the same thing, and Podbean. So make sure to go check that out. Leave some reviews on the podcast services if you can. Tell us how we're doing. Also, we have an email. If you want to send us some ideas on future shows, that is at dissectthatfilm@gmail.com. Send us.
Ooh, we have an email.
Yes,
That's
we do.
exciting.
Yeah. So send us your ideas on what shows you'd like to see in the future. We pretty much have most of the rest of the year planned out, but for next year and for future episodes going into 2022, if you guys have ideas for one-offs or franchises you'd like to see us review, let us know.
Yes, let us know all the things.
All the things. Also, if you are interested in possibly being on the show as well, if there's a movie that, somebody wants to be on the show and talk about that movie, we would love to have other guests on here. We've had guests on the show before. Dan and Angela were formerly guests of the show, and now they are permanent hosts. So it's been a journey, guys.
It doesn't mean you get our spot.
No. Just going to be guests.
It'll be gladiator style.
Yeah, just fight it out.
Survivor gets to be the next host or permanent host.
But yet
every
again,
6 months.
Yeah.
You cycled out.
Yeah. But again, thank you so much for listening and making the show what it is, and having a blast doing it. I've been getting a lot of traffic through the podcast services, which I want to thank everybody who listens to it through the podcast services, because it is very convenient. I do it a lot. I probably shouldn't say it, but it's very rarely that I watch a podcast on YouTube. But some people like to see the visuals, because there are things that might happen in a podcast that you're not going to be able to interpret while you're listening to it without that visual. So it's always cool. So yeah, so make sure, even if you don't watch it all the time, just drop us that sub so we can get that URL. I want that URL, people. Yeah. And there's going to be other videos that we're going to be putting on the channel as well. Some smaller reviews on movies, like new release movies. I know that HBO Max is still doing they release their movies on the platform the same time they release them in theater. So maybe there'll be some movies in the future that we do smaller reviews on. Also, there are shows coming out that I would love to review on this channel. And since it's Spooktober, there is a show that I am very excited is coming out this month, and that is the Chucky TV series coming out on Sci-Fi October 16th. So I would love to do some small reviews on Chucky, and I know there is somebody part of this community that would most likely want to be on this show talking about it too. So that could be in the future. I'm going to keep going, and this episode is going to be really long. So, and in order for me to not have to suffer through 10 hours of editing an episode, we're going to stop right here. Thank you, everybody. Make sure to do all the liking, the subscribing, and commenting. You know what to do. We'll see you all next week with some Beetlejuice. Get excited. See you all later. Bye. Bye.